Alright, Bonehawks, this video is all about Mortal Kombat 1. And boy, was this a fun conversation. Holy smokes. Sat down with my good friend Hatyr. You may remember Hatyr from some of the podcasts we did for the MK11 release. Just had a fantastic time sitting down and just kind of ranking our excitement for these characters on a scale from 1 to 5. So who we're most hyped for and who we aren't hyped for at all. And everything in between. I also want to say Hatyr did a fantastic video on comparing how frame data works in NRS titles to, say, Tekken and Street Fighter. So I'm going to link that in the description down below here. And check that out when we're done. Or if that's something you're interested in, yeah, give it a view. Yeah, here's our conversation, and feel free to follow along. I have some chapters put in there for when we start to talk about different characters. And give us your comments on what you think. All right, that being said, let's get into it.
Accept your death.
So we're doing this on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the least interested and 1 being the most interested. And the metrics that I use to kind of gauge my characters is 3 different things. I use the lore of the characters, whether that's something that I like, whether that's new lore or old lore. A lot of things are getting redone in this timeline, so I mean there's that. The second thing is the appearance. The character has to look cool in order for me to want to actually play them or have any interest in them. And then the last one is their gameplay. Their gameplay kind of has to look like it's something that interests me in a way that I want to play. And depending on, I do have some wiggle room depending on if one of these things isn't kind of there and one of the other, but that's kind of where the in-betweens, the 1s and 5s are. Maybe they're missing one thing, but they're gaining another thing here. Hatyr, you want to let me know how you're judging your characters there?
Sure, kind of the same way, right? Like we were just kind of talking about before we started recording. It's like creating a character like in an RPG or something, and this is something that you're going to be looking at for a lot of hours, right? So you want your character to look like a badass, and that's usually the initial appeal, right? And the game's not out yet, other than the beta characters. We haven't had a chance to play the characters, so we're not. And some we've seen some gameplay of, and some we haven't seen any of. So you feel like, like Reiko and Shang are kind of like at a disadvantage here. We can't really like rate on that. But I think that's a good sort of the cardinal rule, right? Your character's got to look like a badass. It's got to be like kind of visually appealing or strike you in that way to even get you to like take them into practice mode or jump into a match or something. And then sometimes the gameplay jives with that and you're happy, and sometimes it may not be for you and you move on to other things, right? But man, and I've seen a lot of people talking about how they've got the good problem of too many characters they're interested in,
Yeah,
right?
quality
Like,
problem.
so, and that's how I feel too, and I'm sure you do as well, right? So if that first character you start dabbling with, maybe not feeling it, you got some other ones equally as appealing to kind of like hop around with, and then hopefully something strikes you.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of people get excited for things, and then maybe they see the gameplay and they're like, or other way around. There's like for myself, for example, there's a couple characters that I was like, I don't really care about this character. But then once I saw the gameplay, I was like, well, okay, maybe I try them out.
Right, and vice versa. It's like when you really like a song you've been hearing on the radio, right? But then you see the music video and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I like this anymore. Or the other way
Right.
around, right? Like, yeah, it's pretty stale, pretty typical, whatever. But then like, you see the music video and you're like, okay, I see. Yeah, I like it a little bit more now.
Yeah,
So, yep.
totally. So we've got kind of our starting points aside. Are you, it looks like we're going to be doing this in alphabetical order. Are you ready to get started here, Hatyr?
I am. So, yep, this is our roster of 23 so far. We've got the lonely 24th spot there in the corner. Don't know what's happening with that,
Womp
but
womp.
of course, Reiko we know of just from the San Diego Comic-Con trailer, and everyone's assuming he's going to be in. We're going to include him in this, but before we start, I want to say something in particular just about this this Scorpion render, right? Like, what is going on with this pose? Like the shoulder back and his like neck kind of like, kind of looking forward. Doesn't he look like he could be like a Calvin Klein underwear model or something?
That's
Like
totally what's.
don't you think that
I was not ready for
doesn't
that.
that seem like the same face? Like we can't see his mouth, but just that expression in his eyes
Oh
and his
my
pose
god.
and stuff.
That is the image that the internet needed.
All
100%.
right.
That was
Now that that's
awesome.
out of the way, we can Move on to our first one here, which
It was
is Ashrah,
Ashra.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Ashra. You wanna give your thoughts first, or you want me to lead us into this thing?
But why don't you go first? It's your channel, it's your show or whatever. So you talk about her first.
Okay, so Ashra is a character that I remember far differently from Mortal Kombat Deception, as far as design wise and all that kind of stuff goes. She definitely got a glow up in this game though, and like she looks sick. And like when she had, I think it was her fatality where she like goes up into the air with like the wings and all that kind of stuff. Like, man, that just did it. And then they had the combat cast for her, and I was like, this looks like a super duper interesting character to play. Like, it's just something that seems kind of unique to NetherRealm. Like, they've done similar things in the past, but definitely not to this extent. And it's just a gameplay that really, like, gets me excited. It's something new, it's something different. So, like, I have an awesome looking character. I love the lore. It sounds like they haven't changed the lore too much. They've kind of just given her an upgrade. And on top of that, the gameplay looks fantastic. Hopefully she delivers on all three, but she is definitely a one for me. She is somebody I will be taking into practice mode on the very first day for sure.
Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, if you go back and listen to those Bonehawk podcasts leading up to the release of MK11, this character was on my wish list every single time we talked about it. Like, I love this character, and when she was first revealed in that Banish trailer, I was kind of like, ugh, like I don't. Something struck me a little bit weird when she was just very initially revealed, and the more I've thought about it, it's the way they did her kind of jagged hairline to kind of go with the same shape
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
rigidity of her scars and stuff. But it's super, super grown on me. The whole aesthetic is really grown up on me, and every time that I see her, I just can't stop looking at her. I think her design is so awesome. And me as a player, maybe my style, maybe not. Most of her normals and stuff, she uses the sword and kind of like Robin in Justice 2 style, right? And she seems to have some trickery with some of her movement, with some of those like phantasm sort of like dashes and stuff. But absolutely, unequivocally, the very, very first character I am going to try when we get our hands on this game. So she's also a one for me.
Boom! Look at that. We're synced up in that regard.
Yep.
Ashra, uh, number one. Um,
Number one. Now, on to Baraka here.
on to Baraka. So for anyone that has been on this channel for any amount of time, you will know my feelings on Baraka. For those that don't know, let me fill you in. If you were to ask me who my favorite Mortal Kombat character is, you're looking at him right now. Baraka. For a couple reasons. First off, he's just freaking cool. He's just a dude that shoots blades around. And like also is a little bit of a nostalgia for me because he was the very first character that I quote unquote, and I use this very loosely, mained when I was a kid in Mortal Kombat 2 that I kind of like really tried to get better at the game with. So like he's just got that nostalgia feel for me, and like his move set, like the way like that scene like in his intro where he just jabs his blades into the ground, just yanks them out of his arms, like
Right, right.
that got it for me. And then like he's literally shooting the blades out of his arms. It's no longer a spark anymore, and you can see like the blood effects coming from it. Like, man, I cannot wait to get my hands on this character. And even like the little bit of gameplay that we saw against like General Shao and that kind of thing, he just, you know what you're going to get with Baraka, and they gave him a fabulous upgrade. So surprising absolutely no one. He's a one for me.
All right. I'll probably be saying this a couple times as we go through, especially for some of these older characters, but I'm an old man. Like, I was in middle school when the first MK came out, and I remember the day I went to go play MK1 and that arcade was missing and MK2 was in there, and there was this guy as like a new character, and I really liked him a lot. My problem with the way that he has looked kind of like historically, I feel like with every game, especially through the 3D era, he looked more and more like a dumbass. He just they kept trying to make him like look more beastly and savage, but they just made him look sillier and sillier. Uh MK11, they kind of brought him back and I was like, "Oh cool, he's back and stuff." But man, I'm not sure about like the way they did the Tarkatan teeth and stuff like that in MK11, and he was kind of, I don't know, he didn't really hit it for me. I did play him a little bit in MK11, but I am definitely not as stoked about this character as you are, but I think that the glow up they gave him in this game, he looks like a total badass.
Yep.
He has like Nosferatu features, right? His nose, his brow, his ears, or whatever. He looks super, super savage, and that is translating really well into like the gameplay we've seen of him so far. So I actually have Baraka as a 3. He might be a sleeper for me. No one I'm going to be aching to try like right away when the game comes out, but definitely like on my radar when I feel like maybe I'm getting bored or I want to change things up, or this is a like we were just talking about the difference between like aesthetics and lore and gameplay and the kind of metrics that you're kind of basing your stuff on. His gameplay might push him over the bell curve for me, like onto the good side or whatever. But right now
Yeah.
he's like right up the middle for me.
One of my favorite changes for him was they just didn't make him a grunt anymore. He wasn't just like I serve Shao
He's not
Kahn.
a jobber.
Yeah,
right?
he's actually like a really cool character with a sick backstory, and like he's actually like a noble dude. Like it's just, I don't know, they couldn't have done Baraka any better, I think.
Well, the way they did the Tarkat disease, right? It's not a race of people anymore, right? This race of savage, beastly sorts of people. He was like a regular dude. He was a merchant, a humble old merchant,
Yeah,
right?
just
And then,
selling
got
wares.
infected and, gets to the, the leper camp or whatever, where they put all these
Right.
sorts of people. And he's like, man, this is all in disarray. We got to get this shit in order or whatever. And that's what he did. He's kind of the leader of his little lepers.
Leader of the lepers. He doesn't sound
Yeah.
nearly as badass when you say that, but
Yeah, well,
do
I have high hopes for Baraka.
you think they'll explain how the Tarkat gets like transferred to people, or is it just like, oh no, you got the Tarkat?
I don't know, because they say that it's contagious, right? You know that scene from like the trailer was introduced where they somebody sticking that syringe in the base of his neck, and they're not
Yep.
injecting with anything because that thing's empty, right?
Yeah, they're pulling something
I'm
out.
wondering if this is just speculation on my part. I'm wondering if they're taking his blood or spinal fluid or whatever, and I mean that's what is going to be used to contaminate or to infect Mileena.
I mean, that would make sense to me, and that scene kind of, that's the only thing I could really think of in that scene, because if it was like an airborne kind of thing, you'd think way more people would have this Tarkat disease, but if it's like transferred by blood or something, it makes sense why not everyone does. So
Maybe you've got like some sort of outlander genetic predisposition to it or something that makes some people more susceptible, or it's what happens when you eat raw pork. So cook
right.
your meat thoroughly.
Cooking tips here as well.
All right.
So I could go on about Baraka forever, but we should probably move on here. So we got me with a 1, Hatyr with a 3. Next up is General Shao.
General Shao.
Ooh, it took me forever to stop calling him Shao Kahn. Like I think I'm maybe on like day 2 of General
I just
Shao.
started calling him Shao.
That makes sense. I mean,
General Shao is too much. That's too many syllables. That's too much of a mouthful. I'm too lazy for that.
I mean, if you say Shao, there's no other Shao on the roster, so like people kind of know what you're talking about. To me, like his gameplay looks really interesting. I'm not usually a huge fan of like, the big like heavy hitting type characters. I mean, I say that as I played Spawn MK11, but he's just like kind of the big brute thing doesn't really do it for me. That being said, like I love his redesign, like with the horns, that looks so cool, and like I don't know, it's just the coolest he's ever looked in my opinion, and I just really want to get into the story and like what's going on in his head, because we know that he was like a sickly little kid and his dad like basically kicked his ass to get better. I think there's like this big mystique around like who his dad is and that kind of thing. They're really kind of pushing that. So like the lore does it for me and the design does it for me, but it's the gameplay that I'm kind of like on the fence about.
What about the gameplay, do you think? Is that like the stances? How his moves change, whether he's got the axe or not, and things like that?
Yeah, like that's something that like personally I have trouble keeping track of those things and like switching back. There's another character that I'll have the same problem with, but like kind of trying to switch back and forth between like 2 different move sets is like not really my jam. Like if it's like one of my favorite characters, I'll figure it out, but like General Shao isn't really one of the characters that I like that much to really try it out, but it is different enough that I do have him pretty high up on my list. So all in all, I think I gave him a 2. So he's still up there. He's just, the lore is there, the design's there. It's just the gameplay. It interests me, but I'm not sure it's something that I want to dive into right away.
All right, I do think that he looks like a total badass, and I think it's like when the game was first revealed, right? That announcement trailer where Shang Tsung comes out and just starts killing everybody. It's like, Liu Kang, didn't you design this whole thing? Like, why
Right?
is Shang Tsung still like this badass or whatever? But you can see now, he tried to make Shao Kahn like a weakling, but it totally backfired. He's probably worse than he's ever been.
Just such a dick move by Liu Kang. Like that seems just so out of character, but I mean,
And I
kind of
don't
funny.
mind. I mean, I usually I gravitate towards kind of like the ladies, especially like the dark ladies and stuff. But I've been known to play like a bully character or a brawler character or two. But it's this kind of whole attitude that kind of turns me off, right? That really kind of like arrogant evil for the sake of being evil, or that's what he's been historically. Who knows how he's going to unravel in this game, right? But
True.
that kind of, I don't know. I have hopes that he'll have some more dimension
We kind of
in
saw
this
that a little bit when he
game.
was talking to Raiden. Like, oh, it looks scrawnier than usual, you know? Like, that's
Man,
the total Shao Kahn thing to say.
that line in like particular, and a couple other points in that trailer where I really started to appreciate the upgrade in animation and stuff like that, the engine in this game or whatever, these rendered cutscenes and stuff, because the way his like lips move around his big oversized teeth, because he's half dragonkin or
Right.
whatever it's supposed to be or whatever, it looks like if you ever watch a movie where people are wearing like fake teeth and stuff like that, and so their lips kind of like wrap around it weird, and the way they talk with, like, that's how it looks. Like that's how they animated them and stuff. It looks so realistic. It translates so well. Um, I really like his redesign. I don't think his gameplay is going to do it for me from like the combat cast breakdown and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I'm happy for Shao fans for sure, because it looks like a huge upgrade for them, but just not for me personally. So I actually ranked him a 4. So a 4 is kind of like maybe like there is a possibility sort of thing, like
Something big happens kind
maybe
of a
like
thing.
down the line, but nobody that I'm eager to learn or whatever, like right out the gate.
Yeah. No, that's fair
Definitely be
rating.
prioritized for me. So that is a 2 for Dink and a 4 for me.
Cool. Here with the 4.
With
Moving
the 4, my first 4.
the first, who do you think my first 4 is going to be?
I can tell you because I'm looking at the list right here.
Okay, well, don't
But
spoil it.
no spoil. So
I actually put out a poll on my community tab. It said, like, one of these 4 characters, I'm rating a 1. Which one is it? And we'll see if everyone got it right. So,
well, we've only gone over 3 characters so far, and 2 of them you have as a 1. So
cool.
yeah.
So Geras,
Okay.
didn't really care for him on MK11. He just kind of felt like a crony. Didn't really do it for me as far as design. Like, some of the sand moves were cool, and then like when they brought him into announced the Mortal Kombat 1, that was a bit of like a what the hell? Like, why is Geras back? But like they kind of made it a little bit more sense. Like, he serves the hourglass, not necessarily Chronica. So like he's Liu Kang's friend, and then he says like, it's been millennia or whatever he says, which kind of means that like Liu Kang's been doing this for a very, very long time, and Geras hasn't really been a part of it then. So I'm kind of interested to find out what his role in the story is, but not. I don't really care about him that much. And again, his design just looks to me like, what the same as MK11, maybe just like a couple different new moves, but again, nothing that really kind of piques my interest. And then his design is just kind of whatever. There's not really much that Geras does for me. That being said, if something big changed, then I might move him up my list a little bit. But for the time being, I have him as a 4.
Well, I think that he's a good, very intuitive, natural upgrade from his MK11 incarnation. Leading up to MK11, he was one of the characters I was interested in. If we were doing this for MK11, he probably would have been a 2 for me.
Interesting.
Because like I just got done saying, right, I'm not opposed to playing some of like the bigger body characters. He's got a command grab and kind of a bully and all that sort of stuff. But like when the game came out and he was like the terror, the week 1 terror, right? He and Cetrion, I feel like, were the 2 probably most complained about characters. And let me tell you, my respect and my lust for this character diminished so quickly. I was like, fuck this guy. There's no way. I just don't even want him on my screen. So it just So that's another kind of like when we're going through these ratings, right? This is a really good example of someone could have gone from very high, but in like reality, you know, is actually like very low. But
Right.
I'm kind of open to it. I just feel like there's too many other characters I'm interested in this game. So I rated him a 4 as well. So
Yeah, I'm not going to try and change your opinion on that one. It sounds like we both come to the similar conclusions there.
yeah, no offense to all the Geras mains out there. I know a lot of people are stoked for him, but this is just, opinion, just personal opinion.
Yeah, and everyone has different opinions, and like that's the cool thing is that there's just so many characters and so many cool designs in this game that I think like everyone will have at least something that they like, especially when you start to factor in cameos too. Like that's so much to choose from.
Right.
So,
Right.
so moving on to Havik, there's actually not a whole lot that we know about Havik. At least as far as gameplay wise, there's been a little bit of things I've seen like here and there, but his moves like do look pretty cool. And like we did see a little bit of him in that was it his Banish trailer that he was in?
Yeah, it was the same trailer where that Reptile and Ashrah were revealed.
Yeah, and like his fatal blow where he just like starts stabbing you with his hands and they get down into bones. Like that just looks so cool.
He's always finding excuses to rip off that arm, huh? And
yeah, he really does
do
not want
something
his
with it.
arms. So
Right.
like and like they kind of reference that he came from he's from the realm of order as opposed to the realm of chaos, if I remember correctly reading his bio. So that's really interesting. And he's got this like new edgy look to him. Like he could be like the front man of like, I don't know, some punk band or something. He just looks really cool.
He's got like the kickstand bangs.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, he was I'm really curious to find out his gameplay, but I think I'm going to be pleasantly surprised, and I can't wait to get in there with him. So I have him as a 1.
As a 1, all right.
And if you voted that on the community poll, then you are correct. He was the one who I had as my 1. So
all right.
All right.
I feel like I should be more excited about this character than I actually am. He seems like he might be a little too over the top. Like they really went like balls to the wall with this character. Like they brought him back in a superior sorts of fashion, but something about it, I can't even put my finger on it, isn't quite doing it for me. But he's definitely, he's on my radar as a 3. Like he could be a sleeper hit, like Baraka or something like that. I'll dabble with him eventually, but he's definitely not on the docket to be, on pre-order early access sorts of things. I
Right.
don't think I'll be touching like Havik or whatever, but he maybe down the line. He does look cool and he does check a lot of the boxes, but kind of what we talked about with some of these other characters, there's just too many other characters I'm interested in this game.
That's a good problem to have, and I'm happy to have it. So speaking of that, moving on to something we just got a trailer drop this morning for Johnny Cage. They dropped the Jean-Claude Van Damme skin, which looked freaking amazing, and I was pretty stoked. I saw some people saying that like they thought that the face wasn't that accurate, but I'm not a big fan of his, so I don't really know how accurate or not accurate it is. So
I feel like it's the same thing with Megan Fox's Nitara, to where from the profile, there's a striking similarity, like obviously modeled after their face, but when you look at them head on, it doesn't even look like the same character, the same person,
right.
in my opinion.
I mean that's fair. I mean I'm not an expert on his facial recognition things, but Johnny Cage as a whole, outside of that, like having been one of the earliest characters that was announced, and like Johnny Cage is Johnny Cage. Like I feel like he's just going to be like, I haven't seen any reason that he's not going to be like much of the same. I'm sorry, competitor, if you're listening to this, but he just, and especially since I've seen a little bit of his gameplay already in the beta, and then again in the trailer this morning, there's no real reason for me to jump in and play him right away. So outside of maybe labbing things for him like down the line. So he is my first 5. I just have zero interest to hop into any sort of games with Johnny Cage.
All right. So I think they did Johnny Cage well, the way they normally do, right? He's like funny and snarky and all that stuff. That fatality we saw in the Van Damme trailer today is like a
that was
top
hilarious.
tier fatality. The fatality itself is like a number 1. Like,
Absolutely.
how have they not thought, come up with that before or something? Like, kudos to whoever.
Even the little sound effects, like
that idea.
The
I thought it
toasties
was
are
really
driving
cool,
away.
but yeah, I've got a couple problems with Johnny Cage in general. I usually like more fantastical characters, which he is not, and I don't really like more mundane, like the special forces characters and things like that. And I also don't really like to play Rushdown, and it seems like he's just a heavy Rushdown character. So
Yeah.
for that reason, he's also a 5 for me. For those two reasons, kind of like primarily. I had a chance to play him in the beta, and I didn't touch him like a single time. So I'm also a 5, and to me, a 5 just means that the only time I'm going to play this character is like when I'm labbing against them, right? Like I don't think I'll try to learn them and play them.
Yeah, like
But
I should reiterate that like a 5 doesn't mean that like we think the character's bad or looks terrible or like a lot of the designs for every character is cool. It's just these are just our personal opinions of how excited we are for that said character or to play as that said character. So if someone's
right, he's one of the best written characters and always kind of like has been, right? He's always like the comic relief, and you can always rely on old Johnny and stuff, right? He's not a bad character by any means, but
yeah, and it's cool to
as
see like
far as
his
like controlling him and stuff, not really my style.
it is cool to see his like transition through like because I've done this in almost every game how he starts like way goofier and then as the story progresses he kind of gets a little bit more serious and like down to earth kind of a thing. So like I like watching that in that character and that's what really does it for me about the character. So but not excited to play at all.
Yeah, he's cool. I'm glad he's here. He's kind of an MK staple and stuff, like one of the OGs. Uh Putting that punch on the map and all that sort of stuff, but just not my flavor of Slurpee, you know.
You gotta wonder, like, gotta be tough to like have these like iconic characters that they have to somehow like redo and like upgrade like every single game. Like that's got to be tough, and like props to them for continuing to do that. I'm super impressed.
I bet it's half tough and half kind of like this is just what we wanted to do anyway, right? But we didn't have the technology for it. It was like an
Right?
afterthought, like, oh, you know what we should have done? It's too late to do it now, but what we should have done, I bet you it's like a mix of stuff like that.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
Right,
Um,
right.
Gianni's taken up enough of our time. Let's move up to the next one, Kenshi Takahashi, who, in my opinion, I love the lore switch around for him. He's like a member of the Yakuza or whatever, and like he's got all those tattoos. And like at the start, he's not blind, at least as far as I can see. And then at some point, he's got that blindfold on. That's like his official render, right? So like that's going to be interesting to see how that story unfolds. The unfortunate thing for me with Kenshi though is like his gameplay is just way too big brain. Like puppet character is not
I
something
agree.
I'm even close to interested in playing. Like I could not be farther away from that gameplay. And unfortunately, although I think his design is cool and I'm interested to learn the lore, his gameplay is just way too big brain for me. And I gave him a 5. Unfortunately, it was just. And props to everyone that plays it. I was just like, not controlling all that many things and then a cameo on top of that. Like, no thanks. I'm not
I
good at
couldn't have
that.
said it better myself, and I probably don't even need to elaborate. I think he looks like a total badass. I love his redesign. He could have easily been a 1 with just like a different game plan or a more traditional Kenshi game plan or something like that. But the puppet thing and it's just too big. It's too big brained for me. My old man, feeble brained or whatever. It's just not what I. It's not what appeals to me. So exclusively the gameplay knocked him down to a 5 for me.
Yeah, and like if you could literally could have made him like a just like a classic Kenshi zoning character, and that would have put him as a 1 because his design was so good. But just this puppet character is just not interesting me at all. I've seen some
But
sick people like doing some sick stuff with him, so I'm not saying that like that actual thing is bad. It's just not for me.
right, right. So I agree, and I think that's an important distinction, right? That we kind of have reiterated a few times, and probably will continue to do so or whatever. Because I've definitely seen some sick Kenshi gameplay, and I know a lot of people that are really excited to play him, and I'm happy that you're happy.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're just happy to see other people happy. And from there, another iconic character is Kitana, Princess Kitana. This time around, I think she's actually always Princess. She was Khan in the last one, actually. I think at the end.
Right. Well, I guess she is a princess, right? But she's not the heir or whatever. Mileena
Yeah,
is 'cause she was born a few seconds earlier or whatever.
imagine just a few seconds just shapes your
Yep.
entire
Whoever
life.
popped out first.
So design-wise, I think that they made a lot of cool kind of throwbacks to MK9 and a lot of the things she does. Her moves are like some of the coolest looking in the game, like the way that the fans move and like that they have the trails going from them and like that kind of a thing. Like design wise, I'm curious to see how things play out with between her and Mileena as far as like the story goes, and like because I think there's some drama that like some people are trying to tell Mileena that Kitana's trying to steal your throne, and Melina's like, you're trying to take the throne, but Kitana's like, I actually just care about you. You're my sister. But like,
Right.
I want to see how that stuff turns out. I played her in the stress test, and that design was not good. And it was just not effective, especially compared to what else was available there. And then I saw her again in the beta, and it was just kind of like, she still doesn't look that, like she looked better, but like it still didn't look that great. And I love her design. I like the character. It's cool to see the iconics, but like there's just not enough there to really draw me to want to play her right off the bat, or ever maybe. But I wouldn't be opposed to trying her out at some point. So I got her sitting carefully at a 3 here.
I love the way that she looks. I love the kind of simplistic design. Some people have kind of complained about it, but I could stare at this character all day. And in the stress test, she was the first character that I tried. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go play Sub-Zero. This is just I couldn't find a rhythm with it like at all. And I feel like that was kind of a common sentiment. And people that did start to find a rhythm, they were just kind of complaining about damage. And a lot of that's like, contrast to other characters. Maybe she doesn't have a cameo that really complements her the way that other characters do, and all that sort of stuff. But it really kind of boils down to me now that people have started to like flesh out a little bit. It's too many buttons. Right, these combos, they're super swaggy and stuff like that, but man, I just don't see myself doing it.
Right.
And she's her jump in punch, that just looks like one of those ones that's just gonna annoy me to like no end. It looks like one of those really finicky, really precise sorts of things, and I saw
Oh
people
yeah.
complaining about that too. So just for those reasons alone, so this is another one to where I really like the way the character looks, and was excited at first to play them, but I think that the gameplay itself kind of knocked her down for me. So I actually have her as a 5 at all. I probably won't touch her very, very much.
Interesting. I played a little bit of Katana in MK11, so like I feel like a little bit of like I want to try her out at some point. And that's why I kind of have her in the middle. But
I played her in MK11 a little bit too. I mained her for like a little bit. So
Highborn,
that's
right?
why she was the first that I chose in the stress test. But she's definitely the most appealing of the 5 characters in the first stress test to me. But just didn't work out. But that's a me problem.
It happens to the best of us. And moving on here to our boy Kung Lao, which I think this particular render of him looks like he's like in like a grade 8 high school photo.
I know,
It's
it
just
totally
so
looks like a
funny.
school picture.
Totally.
His mom let him wear the hat for the school picture.
Yeah, I just can't get over that. I can't get over that.
Now stand up straight there, Kung Lao. Give me a smile. Well, if that's all you're gonna give me, then okay, just take the shot.
Work with that. You can wear the hat then. We saw a little bit of him in the kind of the chapter 1 drop that they did, and he definitely looks like he's the same old confident Kung Lao. What I think is funny is that like Kung Lao and like Liu Kang have always been like buddies, and like Liu Kang had this opportunity to restart the timeline and make him his champion, and he still chose Raiden anyways. So
Right.
that's like, how betrayed would you have to feel if you knew that happened, right? Which maybe that plays
Right.
into the story or something. I don't know. But
I mean, it does, right? Because that's the whole thing, is that Raiden gave Liu Kang his powers, right, in order to overcome that sort of thing, that transition of power. So it's mainly about Liu Kang and Raiden just kind of swapping places, right? So Raiden's in the place that Liu Kang normally would be, the kind of just regular dude that can, well, not shoot fire or whatever. He's shooting lightning and stuff, but he's not like a
it's
god
not
or
like the
whatever.
god or whatever.
But now the roles are switched. So Kung Lao does get the shaft again. We'll see if he gets his neck broken again.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, quite honestly. To get into my rating, his character design just doesn't. It's just hasn't changed enough for me to really be interested in him at all. His moves, from what I've seen, seem to be very much the same, and outside of maybe a little bit of lore, I have zero interest in this character. He's never really done it for me. The whole hat throwing thing is kind of unique, but I guess they stole that from James Bond. I'm pretty sure they've said so. It's like, I don't know. He is another one who is on the 5 for me. I just have no interest in playing him whatsoever. Happy for all the Kung Lao fans out there. He tends to be pretty good as far as balance wise goes, but definitely not a character I'm going to touch.
Yeah, when MK2 first came out and his kind of vertical slice you in half thing with his hat thing, like the fatality,
Right?
like at the time was so savage. And I thought he was so cool and such a badass. But ever since the kind of like reboot, the MK9 reboot, where they made him this kind of like cocky counterpart to Liu Kang, sort of thing or whatever, he hasn't really, done much for me. He falls into kind of the Johnny Cage category for me. I don't really have any interest, and I look like a total asshole at this point with like 4 5s in a row. Like my ratings outside of Ashrah have not been. It'll get better, I promise. When we're going in alphabetical order, this
Yeah,
is
we're
just
not.
the way it's kind of worked out here. But I definitely look like Ebenezer here. But I also have him at a 5.
Well, that's okay. Let's move on from the negative and maybe let's find some positive. Next up is Lee May, and I was. Everyone knows this. I was so
You're
stoked.
under arrest.
I was so stoked when I saw the trailer for her, and I was just like, "Yes, you're awesome." And then I played her, and her in-game banter, I could not get over it. It was just so bad. Like, obey the law. You're under arrest. Like, the verdict
Fucking
is
RoboCop
out.
May over here, right?
Yeah, and just like totally ruined the character for me. And then it's like lore-wise, I will say gameplay-wise, she was really fun. She feels like an all-rounder. Like she just kind of can do everything in the game, kind of pretty good. And I think she'll be pretty decent, especially with some other cameos. She did lack some good mids, but I'm not going to go into too much on that because the game hasn't even come out yet. We played the beta. That being said, she was like, my first competitive main, I guess, back in the Deception days when I first kind of joined the fighting game community.
So there's a nostalgia factor, right?
Exactly, and get to see her again after 17 years, and maybe the gameplay changed a little bit much, or maybe they took out a lot of that dialogue. I don't know. She's still a 1 for me. I'm still gonna hop in day 1, see what's changed, see what's the same. Hopefully the banter is gone or at least reduced. I remember in the beta, the meme was Cabal, because it was just every 2 seconds was just Cabal
got
and
the spins
Cabal
and Cabal,
got
right?
the spins, yeah. So like maybe they'll tone that down a little bit, but either way, I'm still so stoked to have her back, and she's a definite 1 for me.
I mean, this is a good example of what we were talking about at the beginning, right? That things like that can really kind of ruin your experience with the character, even if you like their gameplay or you want to, you're going to be spending so much time with this character, and then things like that, they gotta jive, man.
Absolutely.
Lee May has not done much for me in the past. When they revealed her earlier, I was like, I thought that she looked really cool. And when they announced that she was going to be in the beta, I was pretty excited. And I was like, all right, now I'm not going to play Sub-Zero this time. And then I played her for, I don't know, like 5 minutes. And then I just was like, fuck it, I'm going to play Sub-Zero again. Like the exact same
Right.
like sort of thing. It just, something about it didn't click for me. I love watching it. And it totally looks like a character that I could play. But what do I have her rated at? This is one that I might have to change on the fly. We kind of talked about this, right? Like,
Yep.
So our official sorts of things, I have her as a 4. But now that I'm looking at all these numbers here, and the more that I'm like talking about it, I'm actually going to change this. I'm going to put her as a 3.
Hey, real-time changes. We in there.
Yeah, real-time changes.
Sure, her fireworks stuff looks just so good. Like the way they animated and stuff.
All the effects look amazing.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job. All of that.
And she looks brutal, right? Like her knee and her multi-punch and all that stuff. She looks like she hurts when she's hitting you.
Totally. She's there to kick your ass.
Right. So she's a badass for sure.
So moving on to this game's poster boy, young Liu Kang, or old Liu Kang, I guess in this timeline. Liu Kang, I played in the stress test, and I had a lot of fun with him. His gameplay was pretty fun, and the character itself, like I'm curious to see how everything rolls out, and like there's something about me that tells me that he's just like a little bit not like evil, but like kind of what Chronico was maybe he was at some point.
Something
Like,
maybe a little unsettling, like a little bit too pragmatic about him,
yeah, there's
a
just
little
it
morally gray.
rubs me a little bit the wrong way. So I'm like curious to see how that all unravels. So like the lore is cool, his design is cool. I like how they have like the twin dragons and stuff. That's pretty dope. And I got to play his gameplay was fun. But I don't think I'll play him again unless I see something crazy that really entices me. That being said, I'm kind of on the fence, so I gave him a 4. Now, I probably won't touch him, but I'm not going to say like 100% no, I'm not playing this character at this point.
I think that aesthetically, I love this version of he looks so much better than the MK11 Fire God Liu Kang. Like they really dialed it up in like in the new engine and the kind of like what they did with his outfit a little bit, but he still has all the same like broad strokes and stuff, right? Like you definitely recognize him as Fire God Liu Kang without even being told that's who it is, right?
Yeah.
Um, but again, this is another one to where like I've never really liked playing Liu Kang, and I don't expect that to change now. I didn't even bother with him in the stress test and beta. He might be a sleeper or something. I just don't see myself playing this character. So, big surprise here. Another 5 from me. But
All right,
I'm a
Scrooge
picky
boy.
bitch. What can I say?
You like
I
what you
just
like, and you know it.
I'm happy for Liu Kang players. He looks awesome, even though some of them are already kind of complaining like he's maybe a little bit. Now we've seen some of the fuckery that some of these other characters have, like Sindel and all that sort of stuff. People are like,
Right.
"Hey, what about Liu?"
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out. But I'm just personal preference, not a character that I really like.
All right, moving into one that I'm excited to hear your opinion on. Mileena, another one of the princesses that we see in the game here, who is seemingly not fully transformed into with the Tarkot or whatever, but is like kind of in the transformation. So I'm super curious to see how her lore storyline goes. If she like kind of fully loses it to that, or if they somehow manage to cure that, or maybe there's just like she's stuck in like that certain little zone
I
where she's
feel
got a
like they
little bit.
stave it off, right? She is infected, but they manage to stop it, but it's already a little bit too late, and it's already kind of like that's how they're explaining her weird mouth thing.
Yeah, I mean, which she kind of had like a predator thing going on in one of the
Yeah.
trailers there. I haven't, I've only seen it in that one scene, so I don't know if that's
That one intro.
yeah. So I'm assuming they'll probably keep that, but yeah. And then like I've seen just a little bit of her gameplay, and it looks fun. Like it looks like what she does is kind of standard Mileena stuff. Um, I might try her out, but I think I put her as I have her as a 3. So it's like it could go either way. If I see some cool stuff with her, I'd definitely give her a shot. But she's not on the. I'm not saying no, and I'm not saying yes. So right in the middle for me.
I love this character. Always have, always will. And when she wasn't in MK11, I mean, I wasn't one of those Twitter warriors or whatever, crying like I just kind of like accepts her or whatever, even though I was still bummed out. I didn't really like her design in MK11, not gameplay wise, but like the way she looked and stuff, like her
Right.
kind of like raggedy haircut, and again the Tarkatan teeth in MK11. I just with her and Baraka, I just wasn't big on it. I feel like this is such a huge upgrade. The mouth I don't super love. The hairstyle they gave her with like the shaved sides, and she's got the kind of like claw crown that's clipped on from behind and stuff like that, and her new outfit. I am in love with this character. What little gameplay we've seen, she looks super, super savage. But if history's any indication, she's like a high risk, high reward character, and that's the kind of stuff that gets me killed. So as much as I want to play her, I probably won't end up maining her, but I do want to like learn her. She is absolutely one of the easiest ratings of #1 on the whole roster for me. I love this character.
Yeah, that was a predictable answer from you.
Right.
And we broke the streak of 5s. So mind you, we have a 3 in there, but
We did
still.
my second one.
There you go. Second one. You were a little.
You already have 4 ones.
I was gonna say I'm definitely a little bit more.
But I feel like you're top row heavy and I'm bottom row heavy here. I'm a bottom.
I'm
And
definitely the
you're
top.
maybe on this list here, but we'll see. We'll keep chugging away here.
Well, let's break into that. Let's get to this bottom half. So, starting with Nitara, and already, like this character just was announced, and like he looks so sick, and like the 3D era characters, I'm super stoked to see so many of them back with these redesigns. Like, oh man, she just looks so cool, and like she looks like the character from the gameplay that they showed that she wants to be in the air. Like, some characters are grounded. Like, I was talking to a competitor, he was saying that Johnny Cage is kind of a little bit more of a grounded character. But Nitara looks like she could be the one that's kind of constantly wants to be in the air with like super long air combos. She does her fatal blow from the air. So she could be that character in this game.
She's got that, what people are calling like triangle jump or triangle dash or whatever, which I hadn't even heard of until that trailer came out, and all these other people that are familiar with other fighting games, right? All the anime games and stuff, talking about these tri dashes and tri jumps or whatever.
Yeah, so
She
she's
goes up and then she comes down at an angle, right? She doesn't just like float and fall on top of your head.
Yeah, I did do a double take on that because I thought they were like dive kicks at first, and then like I watched back, like, okay, no, that's definitely something different. So
it also looks like it has like 0 frames of recovery, so that is going to be
yeah, that could
oh
be a
my
little
gosh.
that could be a little fucky, but we'll see what happens. I'm actually super interested in everything to do with this character. I want to see like what her story is. I love the redesign. I'm definitely neutral on Megan Fox. I really don't care either way, but I think, you know, like design wise, she looks good on the character. And I can't wait to get her into practice mode and see exactly what she does. So I'm already proving Hatyr wrong about me being in the top handy here, because she's a 1 for me. She's definitely,
Well,
like, I don't know how I'm going to fit in all this time for all these characters I want to try right out of the bat.
my only real gripe about the way she looks in her redesign is her kind of her haircut and her weird headpiece, but maybe that'll grow on me and there'll be skins and stuff. I
Well,
love everything else about the way that she looks. Her armor, especially like her new outfit. She looks sick. Oh, her wings are also look maybe a little underdeveloped. Maybe it's still like a little early, and we'll see a little bit more detail or some tattering or something. But they look a little plain to me.
that's fair.
But gameplay wise, and you know how I feel about the Dark Ladies.
Yep.
Like she checks all the boxes, and I'm also that guy that once they heard the Jennifer Body reference in the little intro
Yes.
quote in the trailer, I rented that shit on Amazon and I watched it that night. Like, and got
Nice.
I hadn't seen that movie in like 10 years or something. It still holds up, by the way. If no one's seen it or anyone's like reluctant about going back to it, I'm also kind of indifferent on Megan Fox. I feel like it's like the Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or something, right? To where it's like, I'm sure you're good guys, but I'm fucking tired of hearing about you. And I'm just tired. Like, she was just that like in the 2010s and stuff like that. It's like, who cares? What's the big deal? But she's perfectly fine. Like, I don't really care about her like either way, right? I don't dislike her, but I've never been like necessarily like a fan of her. But I think that her look, they obviously, you know, it's her voice and they modeled the look at least after her a little bit. And I think it translates very well. I don't think that's a bad decision at all. And it's giving them probably the kind of snowball advertising that they were expecting, like you saw it like on Pop Crave or Pop whatever Twitter and all that sort of shit. Like, you know, people talking about Megan Fox again, and that gets Mortal Kombat in the mouths of people that normally wouldn't even be talking about Mortal Kombat. You know, some people don't even know it's a video game; they think it's a movie. You know,
Right.
things like that. But she's also a number 1 for me. Probably, I would say Ashrah's a 1.1 and Nitara's a 1.2. Right? Like Ashrah will probably be
Oh,
the first
okay.
character I touch, and Nitara will probably be the absolute second.
I mean, that's fair, and like, I enjoy your opinion outside of your Backstreet Boys slander. My boys are
Oh,
legends. They've paved the way for bands such as the Beatles. So, but
right, yeah.
we'll go into that another time. Let's roll on here and see if I start to turn into a pessimist Andy here. We're on to Raiden now, who is
Okay.
Earthrealm's champion in this iteration, and he looks like he's kind of like Kung Lao's little sidekick at the start that we see. You know, like he's not, you know, not quite as strong, and he's just kind of like being like tagged along almost with Kung
Dude, he
Lao.
looks like such a dweeb.
Totally.
Like,
Like, what a
looks like a guy that got pushed into lockers in high school or whatever. I kind of feel bad for him.
100%. That's exactly how I see him too. Like, it's just, I don't know. He's it's an interesting to see him, you know, kind of go from this crazy God of Thunder down to just this guy that just gets kicked around, like you said, pushed into lockers and stuff. Um, that being said, I did rate him. Where do I have my rating for him, actually? I am, oh yes, he's a 4 for me. Because, again, he doesn't look very exciting, and I haven't really seen enough of his gameplay to really be like, okay, that's cool. Like, he's got some cool things with, like, he has, like, these lightning balls that go on the screen that he kind of shoots at you, so, like, That's kind of cool. But
That hit
then,
from behind.
yeah,
It
so it's
looks like a 2-bar armored wake up that launches. I'm pretty sure that is his armored wake up, and it does launch right because it did take 2 bars of meter and that little thing that we saw, and that's pretty classic NRS.
right.
If you're going to get a launcher off an armored move, it's going to cost you 2 bars.
Yeah, you're gonna pay for it. So, but nothing that really made me stand out like big time. I'm saying I'm gonna play him. So yeah, I gave him a 4. I'll get to him eventually. And like I played a lot of the Master of Storms Raiden and MKX. So like if they do bring back some of that aspect, I had a lot of fun with that. So if there's maybe like an upgraded version of that in this character, then I might try it out. But as it stands now, he's a 4 for me.
Okay. He's also a 4 for me, like 4 now. Pun.
Aha.
4. I do like his gameplay. I don't like the way he looks at all. I think he fits into the new world that they've created and stuff like that. We're so used to just seeing like Raiden as like this 8-foot tall, like really encroaching sort of like character, whatever. And it's just so weird seeing him like this now. But the gameplay I saw did look cool. He's never really been my kind of character. I've always dabbled with him in the past, but never like really played him like very seriously. So I have him as a 4 as well. Like I don't think that he's on the radar like minimally, right? Like another one of those characters. He might be a sleeper or something. Somebody that's how I started playing Sun God and MKX, right? Like what is a character that I don't see myself playing at all? And I'm just going to pick him. I'm going to try to learn him. And maybe it'll be cool. And then I ended up playing Sun God all the way up through MK11's release, right? When we were all kind of like grinding that again. He could
Yeah.
be one of those sorts of characters for me. I could see it, but he's on the radar, but barely.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, we come to a consensus on that. And now we have Rain, who they've kind of been advertising as the zoner of the game. And like now he's changed. He's not a prince anymore. He's a glorified piss wizard, and like the
He's a mage.
he's the head of the school of sorcery or whatever, which is pretty cool. He still seems like he has that kind of like arrogance to him though, from the couple scenes that I've seen him in. And I mean that's cool. I mean the classic Rain is like that, very arrogant. Maybe he's a little bit less so now. I didn't really care for the animations of all his water stuff. And like a lot of people will say that they really liked it, that it looked really cool. For me, it just looked a little bit too cartoony and kind of out of place for like the overall aspect
And
of the world.
it's too blue. It looks like it was drawn with crayons, not like artistically, right? But the colors they chose for, in particular, like the spiral projectiles and the portals in particular, it it looks like cartoon water.
Yeah, exactly. And it just kind of like didn't really do it for me. That being said, I did like the idea of his moves and stuff. The way that I saw everything go, and you know me, if there's a zoner, I'm trying him out. So Rain is definitely on my radar. However, he's not on the top, so he is a number 2 for me. He's pretty
Oh.
close, but it's just like the designs and stuff were not enough for me to want to try him out right off the bat. So
You
solid
know
2.
you're gonna try him.
I
He's just
oh,
not a priority, but you will.
I will, and who knows, maybe he ends up being my main. But I don't know, that boy Baraka's looking pretty good.
Yeah, he is looking pretty good. I don't really have much feelings for Rain either way, other than like I was talking about how I don't like to play Rushdown either. I don't really like heavy zoning. Like we don't know that he's going to be like a heavy zoner, right? They're kind of like pitching him as like a zoning character, but he looks like he might have some other sort of silliness to him, which would be cool, right? Like having multiple game plans with the same character. You kind of like somebody kind of tunes into your game plan, right? And you've got other sorts of stuff to fall back on, or you realize they're vulnerable to something and you just go ham. And then when they adapt to that, you've got a whole another subset of things that you can kind of like tap into. But this doesn't really do much for me. The water stuff is kind of like, and his big like Gandalf staff, and it's kind of like, I do
Yeah.
like his new outfit and stuff, and I like that they kind of like made him like a Middle Eastern. Uh, but he's a what do I have him as? Hold on, I don't even remember. He's a 4, so I
Hey.
put him on par with like Raiden, right? Like might be a sleeper or something like that. Doesn't really do much for me at first glance, but who knows? He's just not going to be my priority. He's just lower down the priority list when I'm looking for new characters to try.
Yeah, and that's totally fair, and that's kind of I don't know. He's not going to be my first day, but I'm definitely going to be taking him into the lab to seeing how strong of a zoner he actually is, and if he's like the only quote unquote zoner in the game who's really really good at it, then who knows? Maybe I'll play him. But for now, it has yet to be seen. This next one is kind of a tough one. It's Reiko.
Because we don't know anything.
We don't know anything. Like I'm pretty sure I saw him in the background of a trailer looking like he just got his ass kicked, and like they did kind of show him off at like the San Diego Comic-Con, but they haven't released anything official, but there's all sorts of things out there. And we don't really get into leaks on this. This is just one that's like it's out there. They've put it out there. But that being said, we have no gameplay to go by. We don't really have much of lore to go by. So I played it safe and I just went to 3. I literally have nothing else to say. That's maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, just my history with the character. I know a lot of people are really excited about this character, right? He's never really done much for me. We'll see what happens. The gameplay could totally turn that around. I have him as just like a 4 for now again, like sort of thing, because we literally don't know anything. But it's not like I'm super excited to see like how he plays and stuff. And I think a lot of that might be just because I'm already stated, because there's plenty of characters that I do want to try. So it's not like he's like, you're my only hope, Obi-Wan, or something. Right? Please be good. Please be a badass. Plus, I usually don't play characters with dongs, like for the most part. So it kind of already puts him in a disadvantage. So 4 for now.
I just can't get over like is it Mortal Kombat 4 his ending where like his big things he wants to put on Shao Kahn's helmet. Like he's helmet, yeah. After that I just couldn't really take him seriously. It's like, okay, yeah. He's just a Shao Kahn fanboy. So yeah, that's really all we can say about Reiko. Reptile is next. And Reptile is another character that's like, I don't know, I love the redesign. The new lore is super cool. How he kind of got kicked out of the Zaterran tribe or whatever it was for being able to transform into a human, and like his gameplay, it just didn't really resonate with me. It's like some of the animations where he like, I love that they figured it out how to switch him between the human and the reptile like so cleanly. Like that, just those animations are so good.
And sometimes they only do it like halfway, right? Like when he does the acid spit, he still has his human legs. He's only like reptile from like the waist up.
Yeah, I know. It's just they were super creative with that, and the moves look cool. But there's that being said, I've never really been a huge fan of him, but this has been the closest to like wanting to play him that I've ever been. So I think I have him as a 2. He'll definitely be in like my second wave of characters that I learn for sure.
Well, the Banished trailer that they revealed at Evo or whatever, and the first time we saw like his human form, I was kind of like, and then we saw the reptile form, and I was like, okay, like that. I'm happy for reptile fans or whatever. But we saw that gameplay, and I was like, okay, he looks super super sick. So another example of how like the aesthetics are good enough to like get by or whatever, but the gameplay looks super fun and looks like totally a way that I could play. So I have him as a 2, not somebody I'm going to try like right out the gate just because other characters have priority, but he's definitely way up there. Like I will be trying him pretty early on, and I could totally see myself maining this character if none of the other ones like worked out. I think they did such a good job kind of modernizing him, and he's another one like Baraka, right, where he's not just like a jobber anymore.
Yeah, definitely agree there.
He looks super sick. I'm really excited for this character.
Moving on to the former poster boy, Scronpion, who they have been extremely silent about. So there's definitely some things going on with Scronpion here that, like, I don't know. Like, they haven't really had...
Yeah, we're talking about Scronpion.
I can't unsee it. They definitely have, like... There's something going on lore-wise with Scronpion that's going to take a bit...
Okay.
Sorry. I can't look away. I don't know. It's like a train wreck.
No, it's gone. You're safe now.
I'm safe now from Calvin Klein Scronpion. But not sponsored, by the way. Yeah, but like so far, like what I've seen from his gameplay, like his air combat looks really cool. Like I like being able to use like the spear in the air, and like it looks like you could do some cool stuff with that. And like from what I saw in the combat cast, where he's got like kind of the twirly thing, and he's got like the spear and the little kind of scythe looking like thing. It looks really cool. And with that being said, like I'm not a huge Scronpion fan, so like there's definitely other characters I want to try first, but he might be there at some point. I have him as a 3. I'm just kind of like right in the middle. Like it's Scronpion. He's he's just such a iconic character that I'm pretty sure I'll try him at some point if it's not just to learn him to lab against him kind of thing. But yeah, I have him as a 3 for now.
All right. Well, when I was a wee lad in the arcades in the first one, right? Like the first time I saw that fatality, this is like what separated his sprite. He wasn't just the yellow version of the blue one or whatever, right? Or spear instead of an ice ball, like sort of thing. When it was like he took off his hood and it was revealed to be a skull underneath and he just like incinerates you. Like, man, love it for sight. I really like Scorpion, but I've never really played him because he's never really played the way that I always try this character in every single game. It's just kind of like
Never sticks.
it just doesn't really resonate with me. It doesn't strike me as like super fun or the way that I want to, the way that I want to play. But I always try him, and the little pyro in me is just, likes fire type of archetypes and symbology and things like that. So he's always kind of just had a place in my heart. I do agree with you that like the air spear, I think you got to spend a bar for that and stuff like that. His
Looks
gameplay
cool.
looks really fun. I really want to try him, and I would love to finally be able to play Scorpion in a game for it to kind of like suit like what I'm looking for in a character. So I have him as a 2.
Okay. Let's see. Here, this bottom row looking a little bit more optimistic. I like it.
Yeah.
And the inferior sorcerer, Shang Tsung,
The inferior sorcerer.
who is definitely starts out so in the story mode, anyways, as this kind of snake oil salesman, kind of like a. And this is again when we were talking about earlier about Liu Kang being like
Liu Kang tried to shit on him too, right? And it just didn't
totally
work out for him in the end.
Yeah, it didn't work out for him. His other powers come in, and he seems to kind of. I don't know. Well, we don't know that yet, but we do know that he starts off looking pretty decrepit. We don't really know anything of his gameplay yet that I've seen. Question mark? I don't think we've seen anything. I haven't anyway.
No, nothing in game, I don't think. We saw a little bit of that intro. And then just the CG trailer, right, of him fatalitying like basically everybody in the announcement trailer.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's all we've seen. I'm sure people will correct you in the comments if we're wrong.
Yeah, y'all are good at that, and I appreciate that. So, for now, because there's just so little to go by, I have him as a 3. But I mean, realistically, once Quan Chi drops, there's not a chance that I'm playing Shang.
Well, you played him in MK11, right?
Yeah, because of the lack of Quan. I was just drawn to the whole sorcerer thing, and as much as I hate to admit it, I did have fun playing Shang. He was a pretty hardcore zoner in a game that there's not a lot of zoners, so that really did it for me. But who knows? Once Quan Chi comes out, I don't think I'll be playing really anybody else. So we'll see. I have him as a 3.
All right. I'm pretty middle of the road on Shang. He's always had like annoying ass zoning. God, in MK11, that shit was so obnoxious.
Yep.
But until we like see gameplay, right? It's kind of like Reiko. Like I don't know. Like I haven't really played him in the past, so it's not like, oh, my main's in the game, things
Right.
like that. I'm not super excited to play him, but who knows what could happen? What did I put him as, a 4? I guess he's kind of like. So you put the unknowns like Shang and Reiko, you kind of put them as 3s, and I put them as 4s, and that's just the way that we kind of approached our own scaling, like sort of thing. But
Yeah.
I think the sentiment's kind of the same for those two characters in particular. Like, I don't know, I've never been really like Team Shang. He's been a really cool, really consistent villain since like the very beginning, right? He's gone through all of his iterations where he was like the old man in the first game, and then we saw the kind of really sorcerer one with the fucking black metal makeup and shit like that in
that was cool.
MK3 and stuff. I want that aesthetic to come back. Everyone's getting their MK3 ultimate costumes, all the ladies and stuff, but we still haven't seen the Shang face paint come back with
It's
like
time.
the phantom eyes and stuff, the ghoul eyes. It's definitely time. So there's that.
Yeah, so 3 and 4, kind of, we don't really know much, so we can't really rate. So take that, Shang fans. Moving on to Sindel. Never really been a Sindel fan, but I gotta say, when I saw her in this, like her new look, she just looks like so regal and almost kind of warm, like in some of the scenes that we've seen, like just
Very
kind of
motherly. Right? They did that very well.
And I'm so happy that they took that route with her, assuming that that's what they're doing. And it really seems like, she's like a peaceful kind of people were really upset at that recon of her being like actually evil the whole time, and now they kind of like seem like I think they got that backlash and like, okay, well, hold on, well, we can make her
Yeah, that was
motherly.
dog shit. Whoever made those decisions and signed off on stuff like that, like, just awful. What an awful, awful move.
Yeah, that was not the move. I remember. Yeah, again, I don't even really care about Sindel that much, but like, I was like, huh, I don't like that. I really, it's kind of disheartening, and especially to see like, I don't know, Kitana just be like so happy, and then just like see her being like evil is just like, oh, that just, oof, that
And, like, hitting her and stuff like that, right? Like, and it's like, and it's not
why?
even it's like so cliche, that whole archetype. It's not even like a clever original idea, like a spin on something. It was like, okay, so you put Gemma Taylor from that's Sons of Anarchy. If I don't know if you watched that show or whatever, you basically
Nope.
put her into Mortal Kombat and we're calling her Sindel and stuff. It's like it was so obnoxious, especially like looking forward to that character so much, like leading up to it, and just like, man, what a kick in the nuts.
Yeah, so I'm glad to see that design kind of go by the wayside. Um, Again, I don't really care about her that much as a character, but what really like surprisingly moved her up the list for me was her gameplay. Like she is so unique. Like she's the I'm not going to let you play Mortal Kombat 1 character, and that really intrigues me. Like just the way that she's set up and the things that she can do with different cameos to just kind of take like the base parts of the game and just say you're not playing this. I really think that's cool. That is like such a crazy mechanic that I don't think NRS has really ever done on purpose. There are definitely characters over the years who you're not playing the game, but this really much seems like they're disabling certain mechanics in certain
Very
ways.
deliberate, and we know how you like to ruin people's days and stuff like that,
I
right?
love to ruin people's days. I love the salt, I love just hear people just get upset, as some people used to call me the Bob Ross of Mortal Kombat.
Right.
I do like to fish for some salt every once in a while. So I have her quite high, in my opinion, for me as a 2. So she'll definitely be the second wave of characters that I play around
Okay.
with.
I think I said Gemma Taylor. It's Gemma Taylor, so don't blow me up for that.
Oh, blow 'em up.
But I agree for you. This is another character before Nitara was released. Had we done this, she would have been a number one, right? I just didn't want to have too many number ones.
Sure.
And now there's not. I think I have 4, so there's, one more number one left in whatever characters are left to be talked about here. But I also have her as a 2 just because I feel like Nitara kicked her out of that spot for me. And again, I've said this like about a few characters, looks maybe a little bit too big brained for me. I've never been good at instant air fireballs and some of the other
Oh
like
yeah.
maneuvering and like finding those moments to fuck with people's cameos and when they can use them and can't use them.
Right.
Like the same reason I'm probably not going to use Shujinko as a cameo is because I don't want to know what every little thing is like capable of and what those inputs are, and like what's going to come out and what the properties are going to be, like maybe a little bit too layered for me, but that's a good thing for other people that eat that sort of stuff up. Uh, as far as her redesign and her look, my only complaint really is this kind of like beige taupe thing she's got going on against her purple on the outfit or whatever. But otherwise, I think that she looks great, and I will definitely try her for sure. Probably won't work out for me, but she's way high for me. I will try her very, very early on to at least make that determination. So she's also a 2 for me.
Perfect. Moving on to the final 3. So we got 2 Lin Kuei here. Smoke. Um, Smoke. His gameplay kind of looks like I don't know. Nothing about it really excited me. I liked that he's got like the cool new weapons. That was kind of neat. But
Weapon
or weapon,
and
yeah. I
his
guess
little hunting knife.
yeah, and the lore behind it's really cool. Like it's the was that the knife that his mom gave him or something before she was
Yeah,
murdered?
something like that. As some sort of family like reference. It was like when they hunted when he was a child or something, right? And then
Yeah.
they
So
were
like
killed by the Lin Kuei on accident or something, and that's like his keepsake.
so that's kind of cool lore. I'm curious to see like some of this quote unquote practical magic that he uses because like he's legit just floating in the air while the other two are climbing the wall. I'm like, how are you doing that if you're not actually like magical? And we even see Nitara like hit him out of whatever he's like floating up on in her
Right.
trailer. So I'm curious to see how all that works.
Didn't they say in his bio he's like more of like an illusionist sort of thing? They're like magic tricks. He's not like really You know how like Scorpion, Sub-Zero's a cryomancer and Scorpion kind of controls fire and all that sort of stuff. He doesn't really control smoke like that. It's all kind of like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, he's just riding a drone with a little smoke machine coming out of it, like,
Yeah, well, maybe he's
which
got
is it's kind of funny, you know.
he's got some tech.
I mean, yeah, maybe he's a tech kind of guy. So, that being said, there was parts of his gameplay that looked like absolutely busted. Like the mix just looks like craziness. So like with his special move or his normals and strings and stuff, like I was watching them and I'm watching the combat gas and okay, like they're nothing special. But then they started getting into some of the special moves and stuff, and like, man, that it looked on paper like that is just going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. I've said this before though, in previous combat casts for previous games, there have been characters like that like look absolutely crazy, and then as soon as the game launches, it's actually not that bad.
You're right. Like this is how you deal with it. You can just backdash out of everything, or you can just, whatever the answer may be, right? And it's not quite as I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. So I mean, I have him pretty high up as a 2, and that is more because I'm just curious to see how all of this really busted looking stuff turns out. So he's definitely going to be one of the first ones that I play around with, just because I'm curious how good this stuff is actually going to be. Like, it's piqued my curiosity that much that I'm excited to play a character that I otherwise wouldn't have probably tried. So I definitely have Smoke as a 2.
That Lin Kuei trailer where we saw him revealed for the first time and a little bit of gameplay, right? Like he was a 1 for me. Like right out the gate. Even though that mask is a 5 and that haircut is a 5, he was still like
Yeah.
a number 1 for me until like the combat cast. And this just goes into something I was already kind of talking about before. I don't really like playing heavy rushdown characters, and he looks like a stubby, heavy rushdown character. Even though he's got his tricks and his kind of fuck neutral tools and ways to get in and around and stuff like that, it doesn't look like it's something I'm gonna want to play. I'll definitely mess around with him, but he is not high up on my list. He started very high, but he went low very fast as more characters started to get revealed. And after seeing kind of like the combat cast breakdown and going over some of those specials that you were just talking about and stuff. So I've got him right up the middle. He's a 3 for me.
Yeah, and even like the first chapter where he comes in just like a common thug, like, "Are you going to pay for our protection?" Like, I was like, okay, that's not really that cool. But
Yeah, that really kind of bummed me out about all of it. But the more people start talking about that, right? Because you got Liu Kang skulking in the background. That's going to be one of those like tests, like what they did with the combat kids in MKX, right? Versus
yeah,
Sub-Zero, sort of thing. That's got to be like, let's see what you got, Raiden and Kung Lao, like sort of thing.
yeah, like I'm fairly certain Liu Kang probably got to the Lin Kuei beforehand and just said, "Hey, can you test these two guys?" Probably Madame Bo's probably on it too, and like just like, "Hey, I need you to test these ones. Here's some sort of payment or something like that," and then we find out
Right.
afterwards. I think it's funny that they just freaking huck her off the balcony into a table.
Dude, they just clocked her. Like,
Totally.
Smoke even just throw her on off. But yeah, that was definitely like a buzzkill. Even not knowing the full context, just kind of like seeing that out of context, the way that they very deliberately edited that and presented it to us.
Yeah.
It was definitely, it made me flaccid.
Speaking of flaccid, we have Sub-Zero next here. Another member of the Lin Kuei.
What is that supposed to mean?
I'll get to that in a second. But Sub-Zero is in this like Sub-Zero is just he's always been around, so I've never really been super crazy about Sub-Zero. So in this game he seems like he is kind of like a bit of a bad guy. I think we're gonna see a little bit of that route. He's just kind of like even the way that
Well, it's Bihan, right?
yeah, it's Bihan. He's like the noob Saibot, right? So like you see like Kuai Liang like bowing to Liu Kang, and he's kind of like, "Why are you doing that?" Like he's got this look on his face, like what pathetic, like what the
Right.
So I mean, he's
Like,
just
don't be a bitch.
yeah, you're Lin Kuei, like. So I think we're going to see some sort of like an enemy arc with him, and his redesign isn't enough to really make me excited about him. I really am just going to lab him to understand how his moves work, and that being said, I've already seen a lot of his stuff in the beta and the stress test, so it's like there's nothing to be excited about. So I'm sitting in a pretty flaccid 4 here for Sub-Zero.
All right. Sub-Zero, the homie. He was like my very first, quote unquote main from like the earliest Mortal Kombat. I've just always liked I didn't realize that I liked the idea of like ice and blood, like as an aesthetic until Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat. And that's always kind of like stuck out to me. That very first fatality where it rips off your head and your spine comes out with it and stuff like that. He's always just kind of been my boy. And if I don't main him, I at least try to play him and experiment with him in every game. He did not do it for me at all in MK11, but I played a lot of Unbreakable and MKX. I mained him for a while and then played him on the side in Injustice 2, all the other games. So he's always a character that I try, like without a doubt. Like in the stress test, probably 99% of my time in the stress test, uh, I played Sub-Zero. So I already have like at least a basic idea of like what his buttons are going to be, like just kind of how he moves, the general sort of like game plan, and how you can, how it feels like in a real game with all the, pissing people off with Ice Clone and all that sort of stuff. And
Yep.
man, he does some damage as well. I don't know if that's going to translate over past the day one patch or whatever, but man, he is definitely the only reason he's probably not a number one for me is just because I've already had so much time with him, and so
Right.
I'm not going to play him right away because I've already just spent so much time with him. But he's definitely, if none of my other number ones like work out, he and Reptile are probably going to be my first kind of like fallbacks. Kind of want to play a ninja,
You gotta play a ninja. There's so many of them in this game,
And I like his redesign. I like the more minimal look and stuff they're going for he and Scorpion and Smoke, except for the mask.
Yeah,
God,
the
that
mask.
Smoke mask is just hard to look at. Just looking at it now on the screen, I don't like it.
They had a similar
Whatever gas mask canister inspired sort of thing they were going for. It's cool to like set them apart from the other ones, but I don't think it works at all.
I think they had a skin for Sub-Zero and MKX that had a similar mask to that. It was
it was they did like the Russian Fallout sort of like masks for a couple characters,
Cold
right?
War
And
or
he had
whatever, Sub-Zero.
Yeah, Cold War Sub-Zero. But no, because Scorpion had the gas mask thing. Sub-Zero had like the elephant trunk looking thing. I guess that probably had gas mask canisters and stuff on it too.
I don't know. It's just
I
it's
don't
not a
even
good
remember.
design. It's not a good
We're
design.
not real MK fans. We don't remember.
No, definitely not.
Blow us up in the comments. All right.
Final
So that leaves
character.
Tanya.
And Tanya is a character that I've never really been that excited about, but like I have friends that are absolutely crazy about Tanya and people love her. And like it seems like they went down the route of like the Tanya Mileena romance that's like not supposed to, like the Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, that's like they're not supposed to be in love or they're doing their thing, but they are. And I think that's kind of cool because I think that's what those fans always kind of wanted, was that romance between Tanya and Mileena. As far as I know, maybe I'm wrong and people don't want that at all, but I thought that I've heard that over the years. And I really like her redesign. I like her redesign, like the way that she looks, the way that she's kind of like a warrior now, like the royal, not police, but like royal protector kind of a thing. That's super
right.
cool.
They gave her kind of like a warrior priest sort of like aesthetic and stuff with all the glowy yellow stuff and the sigils and the new weapon and all of that. I'm totally down with it. I love this character.
So she looks super sick. Her gameplay looks pretty fun. Not really a character that I want to try out right away though. I think I originally had her as a 4. I think I'm going to change that though to a 3. The more that I talk about her, I'm kind of getting like a little bit excited, but like definitely not a day one character for me, but I want to check her out, kind of see what she does. So I think I'm comfortable changing that to a 3 now that I think about it.
All right, remind me when the graphic comes up. Otherwise, I'll forget for sure.
Right.
Stoner brain. I love this character. She's been top tier for me ever since she was revealed. Like what little bit of the gameplay that we've seen of her. She just kind of like checks all the boxes. Definitely somebody I want to try. She looks like the only character so far that has some sort of like counter parry sort of thing outside of like Johnny's fatal blow.
Right.
And that's just what people are kind of like guessing off of like one part of that trailer where it looks like she's going into like that stance and then she gets hit and then she does her traditional little, cross up teleport thing as a reaction to that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess that is some sort of counter or parry or something, which is definitely a component of a toolkit that I like to have in my characters, and I haven't seen that in any of the other ones. She is absolutely a 1 for me. You said you were changing her to a 3.
To a 3, yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of the redesign and stuff as well. I love this kind of like priestess thing they got going on. She looks like she might have some sort of buff stance, and she has a couple of the classic looking things like her drill kick and the teleport thing that we just talked about, even if it functions differently. The drill kick doesn't look like she's gonna be able to combo off of it like MKX, but it does look like it pops up like a cameo assist, right? Like the Scorpion or Sonya or something might be able to keep them airborne so she can extend off of it. Whether it'll be a low or not, we'll see.
Oh, that would be interesting. It'd be interesting change.
Because it was a low in wasn't the drill kick a low in MKX?
Yep. Yeah, it was. That was her mix between the drill kick and the overhead
The
flip
instant
kick.
overhead thing.
Oh yeah, she had the instant overhead thing
And
too,
she had the
and
kind
the
of like instant overhead drill.
yeah, and the little flippity do. That was her
Yeah,
wake up, I
yeah.
think. I think they're both armored at one point. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yep. So
Well,
that's it. We made
that's
it. We made it the whole way.
Nice. I thought this was going to go a lot longer, if I'm being honest. So we did a good
Yeah.
time here. So, definitely you have a type. I can tell that by the amount of ones. I'm just excited for everybody pretty much outside of like 3. I think I have 3 in the 5s that I'm not really stoked on, but a lot of 2s, 3s, 1s. I'm very happy
You
with
had
this
more
roster.
1s and I had more 5s.
Right. Yeah. So kind of flipped in that aspect. But
I
I
was
think
definitely trying to be conservative with the because man, I don't want to be all like super paralyzed by choice, when it comes out. But there's definitely a lot of characters I wanna try. Basically, anyone that's not a 5, I'll try at some point. It's just a matter of priority.
yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. Anyone outside of the 5, I will be trying at some point, and the 5s are only there for me to lab against something annoying that they do. So
Yeah, that's how I feel about most of the 5s, right? Like the only time I'll play them is to lab against them, like sort of thing. But who knows? Like sometimes you go to lab against something that you think is fucky, and then you're like, oh, this character's actually pretty sweet. I'm gonna start playing them.
I've definitely done that before. That's like I did that in MK11. There's just like so many characters. I was just like in practice mode, and there's like, oh, actually, I think I want to try this character. Jax was a character that I never thought I would try, and I played Jax for a whole Combat League season. So,
dude, that's how I started playing Marisa in Street Fighter 6. Was labbing against her. It's like, okay, what do I got to do about all this armor stuff? And I was like, man, this just like feels good to do, and it's like way more straightforward than I thought it was going to be. I was like, why am I not playing this character? So I just started playing that character.
that's how it happens. And there's lots of characters to do that with in this game, and they look like they've definitely brought back some archetypes on different things that characters are kind of supposed to do. Not just everyone's kind of a mid-range. You had to. That will always...
Just to lead us out here,
All right, Hatyr, thanks for joining me for this. I really do appreciate that.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, anytime. And yeah, there's a link to the video I talked about in the intro to Hatyr's video in the description there. So check that out. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like because it really helps me out. And subscribe if you haven't, because I make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks and all that stuff. And we'll see all you Bonehawks in the next video.
Accept your death.